Fanatic. I'm your host, Dave Dalton, and I'm excited to share my passion and perspective of our Detroit Pistons as we go on this fantastic voyage together. I've been a diehard Piston fan since the days of Dave Bing and Bob Lanier. I've also been the varsity basketball coach of a very successful program in northern Michigan. And I really want to thank you for listening, and I really love the encouragement you give me in the comments, and makes me feel great and inspires me to try to do better. I even like the comments that disagree with me. So keep the comments coming, whether you agree or disagree. But thank you very much for all those. Please subscribe. Well, our Pistons lost tonight, 142 to 124 to the Dallas Mavericks, and it was kind of a crazy game. There's a lot to get into, but Luka broke an all-time NBA record for the most consecutive triple doubles. He had 5 triple doubles in a row with scoring 35 or more points. So he is an incredible player. He was incredible tonight. It's a bummer though. I told you last episode I was excited for Sasser to guard him, and Sasser guarded him in the first quarter, and he was 2 for 5 and had 5 turnovers when Sasser guarded him. Then Sasser got sick. I saw him sitting on the bench and he looked bad, and so he never came back in the game, and so we didn't have anybody else that could guard him, and he just sort of torched us. And he had 39 points. He played 37 minutes, and he was 13 for 24, 4 for 13 on threes, and got 9 for 10 on free throws. So he had a great game. Cade Cunningham had a fantastic game. He played only 32 minutes, and he almost had a triple-double, but he had 33 points and 9 rebounds and 10 assists. So it was a great show by those guys, and we just had it stunk, man. The third quarter, we cut it to like 7, and then all of a sudden they go on like an 18-2 run. We had our bench in there, and it wasn't just our bench's fault, but we had just not a very good lineup in there. But we need to get a better bench. So that's the problem. We need to add good players. We need to add some more players. But we had Mude in there, Stanley Mude in there, and Fournier and Sasser, and Ivy was with them, and then Wiseman or Duren played part of that stretch where we got outscored, like 18-2. So the game was over. We cut it to 7, and then all of a sudden, in 4.5 minutes, they went on an 18-2 run. So that was the ball game, and yeah, it was tough to watch. And Ivy struggled really again, and Duren, he got 3 fouls right away. He played only 10 minutes in the first half, and he had to sit out. Start the second half, he gets an offensive foul 15 seconds in. So he has, 4 fouls, so he has to sit down. But Wiseman was incredible. So Wiseman was 8 for 10, 17 points, 4 assists, and 11 rebounds. So way to go, James Wiseman. But Duren, I love Duren, and he has so much potential. I think he's going to keep getting better, and he's one of the top rebounders in the NBA, and he's like 5th in field goal percentage. But he does have this little macho thing going on, and he let it get in his way tonight. He was frustrated, I think, from everything that happened in those fouls. I know some of them were cheap, and then he kind of gave a hard foul to one of the Mavericks players, and then one of their players kind of came by and lightly pushed him away a little bit, and then he pushed him a little bit harder, and then he shoved Duren. So pretty soon Duren has 2 technicals, one for the foul and one for shoving the other guy back, and then so he's ejected, and so he only got to play 16 minutes tonight. So that was too bad. But he's just got to get, like I said, he kind of stomps around there like this big tough guy, and he like gets his rebounds and like underhand flips it to somebody instead of just getting it outlet and passing it right away. And he doesn't get off his feet quick to help on defense quite quick enough. But he is a great player. So I'm just pointing out that he does have some things that I think he can get better at, that he needs to get better at. But I'm not so sure. I coached a long time, and some players have a knack for helping out on defense and protecting the rim, and they just get to help real quick, and they react real quick, or they're really good at blocking shots. And some players aren't, and it just seems like he might be one of those players. So anyway, FONTECCHIO was fantastic tonight. He had a great game. He had 27 points, but the shot clock was running out, and he was out at the 3-point line, and somebody had whipped the ball to him, and he had no time to get it off, so he didn't get to shoot his regular shot. It touched his hands, and he launched it, and it banked in for a 3. So that was a cool shot. But yeah, it was a great shot. Still frustrated. Quentin Grimes, we got in that trade, and I was so excited about him, and I still am. But he is, he hurt his knee. His knee was injured before he came to the Pistons. He sat out even after we traded for him, and he tried coming back, and he didn't shoot good except for one quarter of the game against the Knicks, and then he is still injured again. So what's frustrating is we only have about 20 games left, and we want to see what these guys happen. And so it hurt all year, just like Monty Morris. We never did even get to see what Monty Morris could have been for the Pistons. And I have no problem with the fact that we traded him, but it just is these guys get injured, and so we had these games. So he's going to be. He has one more year that we can have him play. We have him under contract for, and then he'll be a restricted free agent. So we can match anybody that we want. But if we had seen we can extend him this summer, but it's just a bummer because we don't get to see him play, and we want to see how he fits with the rest of the team, and figure out what we need going into the summer, what we need to draft or who we need to trade for, who we need to sign as free agent. And I just hope that he can come back. And obviously, if it's going to hurt him long term, we don't want him to come back. But it's just as disappointing that he has been hurt and not been able to play. You look at the standings, we have 10 wins now, and we're tied for the worst record with the Wizards. They have 10 wins. They just won last night, so they matched us with 10 wins. The Spurs tonight, I turn on the game, when I'm getting ready to do this podcast and getting my things organized, and they're up like 21 to the Warriors at the beginning of the third quarter. And Wemby's not even playing. Of course, Steph's not playing either. So it was 64-43, and then the third quarter, early in the third quarter, and then they cut it. The Warriors cut it to like 7, and then the Spurs went back up by, I don't know, 14 or something last I looked. So we'll see if the Spurs win another game. So because right now they have 13 wins, so we still realistically could catch them, but the rest of the teams it's going to be real hard to catch because the Hornets they just won. The Hornets won tonight, so they have 16 wins, and they had won like 4 out of 5 in a recent stretch. So it's hard to imagine that they would have to go the rest of the season, obviously, and not win another game, and we would have to win 6 more games to even tie them. So it looks like we're going to finish in the bottom 3. So you get the best odds to get the first, second, or third pick. And the advantage, I went through this a lot in the spring, but if you have the worst record in the league and people leapfrog you in the lottery, then you get pushed back one space. So, but if you're the worst record in the league and a couple teams leapfrog you, you get the worst pick you can get is the 5th, which happened to the Pistons twice. And so that's really a bummer because, I was all for tanking last year because I wanted a shot at Wemby, and he has lived up to. He's even better than I thought, or I think anybody thought he could be. And I said he was a once in a lifetime player, and that's what he looks like right now. And so I was all for tanking. I'm not for tanking this year, even though there are some players, and I get into the draft more, but there's Zachary Rishashar that I love, and that he's the perfect player for the Pistons. By far, he's the guy I want. And he's like 6'9", 6'10", and he can shoot the 3, and he can play defense some, and he's real young, but so it will take him some time to get better, but he's a perfect fit to me of all the guys that are available in the draft. Everybody says it's not a great draft, but Cody Williams, so I'm really bummed. I try to watch Cody Williams play, and I record he plays for Colorado. He's the highest ranked college player that's coming out in the draft, and I watched him play a couple times, and he didn't do that much because he has like 2 other NBA guys on his team that want the ball all the time and shoot the ball. They don't even look for him, it seemed like. But his shot has been good. He doesn't shoot a high volume, but he can shoot the 3. He's Williams' brother, Jalen Williams, that plays for Oklahoma City. That's so fantastic that I love. He's his younger brother, but he's a little bit more slender. He's a little bit taller and a little more fluid and athletic, I think, but he would be my second pick. And then Alex Sarr, he's like 7 foot tall, and he can really play defense. He can really block shots. We don't have a shot blocker. We need a shot blocker, but I'm just hesitant to get a player who can't shoot the 3. And Williams is, again, Cody Williams hasn't shot a lot of 3s, but he shot a really good percentage, and Ricochet shot really great for the whole season, like 45%. So, but Sar is so talented and has so much potential, and there aren't other guys. So I mean, if there was another 6'9" guy, 6'10" guy that could shoot the three, I wouldn't, have Sar third on my list for the Pistons. So a lot of draft boards have Sar number one on their draft board, but that's not necessarily for the Pistons. I think most experts would agree that if you were drafting for the Pistons, you wouldn't want Alex Sar because you're not sure how he shoots, and we have enough guys that we don't know how good they can shoot the three, and so that's just too important of a thing. So um, there's still a little debate about who should start, whether Stu should start or whether Fontecchio should start. And again, my opinion has always been that Fontecchio should start ahead of Stu. Stu didn't have a very good game tonight, but I heard James Edwards III, who loves Stu, and he claims that it's not just that he loves Stu, it's just that he hates listening to people say that Stu's garbage. But James has a personal connection with Stu, and he likes him as a person. So he is a little bit skewed in his evaluation of him, but he says, the lineups prove that all the analytics prove that we are better with Fontecchio, AUSAR, Cade, Ivy, and DUREN than we are with Stu. And with that same lineup, if you take out Fontecchio and put in Stu, the analytics say we're worse by a significant margin. So, but then his opinion is, James Edwards III, that if we replace DUREN with Stu, then, and there's a small sample size, 27 minutes only, that says that we maybe would be a better team. But couple of things. When we won, we beat the Nets, had a great game. Cade and Ivy were fabulous, and it was so cool. And then they get to do the highlights on TNT, and for a long time, I loved watching the TNT crew with Ernie and Shaq and Charles Barkley and those guys and Kenny the Jet Smith. I always enjoyed them. I always enjoyed the humor and the banter back and forth, and it was entertaining, I thought. But over the last 3 or 4 or 5 years, I don't know how long, I'm not entertained by them as much anymore. And it amazes me that Shaq and Charles Barkley make millions of dollars, and they just are goofballs. They don't prepare. They don't study. They don't, they just get up there. And so they're showing the Piston highlights, and Ernie's trying to talk through the Piston highlights against the Nets. Finally they win a game, and Shaq's saying, well, nobody cares about this game, and nobody's watching, and he's interrupting. The highlights are rolling on the screen, and they're showing Cade dunking or making a three, and Ivy making a three and stuff, and they don't even get to comment about it, Ernie. And Ernie says, I'm trying to do my job here, but they're all chuckling because the Pistons are bad. And so, but there are people that care about the Pistons, and so anyway, I don't care about you, Charles, and I don't care about you, Shaq. So anyway, they make a lot of money though. So AUSAR, like I said, he only got to play 11 minutes. He was sick. You could see it on his face. He was 1 for 7, and maybe that partly contributed to that. 0 for 2 on threes, 2 for 4 from the line. But in those 11 minutes, he had 5 rebounds. 4 of them were offensive rebounds, and he had a steal. But he literally made life miserable for Luka. Luka could not get a shot off him. Luka turned the ball over when he was guarding him, and James Wiseman helped with it. James Wiseman blocked Luka's shot when he was helping out. But yeah, he had. I was looking forward to that matchup, and then we didn't get to see it, only for a short time. So, but Stu, 34 minutes. He was 2 for 6, 1 for 4. He missed his first 3, but he passed up 4 wide open threes. One time he passed it up, and then he traveled, trying to, because he didn't want to shoot it. So yeah, it's just still questionable. I wish, he's not that bad a shooter, but he doesn't really believe in himself. That's the thing, I think. But he had 4 rebounds in 34 minutes, which isn't great. 3 steals, which is great. 0 assists and 5 points. DUREN, again, 16 minutes only, 1 for 4. And, he's, like I said, he's one of the top 5th, I think, in field goal percentage in the NBA. 4 for 4 from the free throw line. He still had 8 rebounds in 16 minutes and 3 assists, but he had 2 turnovers, 6 points. He was minus 21. It was the worst plus minus on the team. Cade, 32 minutes, 11 for 20. He had 24 in the first half, so he was really on fire in the first half. And he ended up 3 for 7 on threes, 8 for 8 from the free throw line, 9 rebounds, 10 assists, but he had 5 turnovers. So again, that needs to be 3. and not 5. So 33 points, -7, but he is a star player, and he is one of the best players in the NBA. So Jaden Ivey, he had that one great game against the Nets, and he's back to his struggles. Who knows what is going on? But he is 36 minutes, 7 for 21, 2 for 9 on threes, 1 for 2 from the free throw line, 6 rebounds. He's hustling. He's playing hard. He played some good defense. He guarded Luka tough a couple times, and he, you know, crashing the offensive boards with everything he's got. One time he got jumped up in the air between all those big guys and falling out of bounds. He whips it back into Sauer for a dunk and just hustling, like I said, his tail off. But he had 4 assists, 2 steals, 1 block, and 6 turnovers. So he just is struggling. He had 17 points, but he was -17. And there, I already talked about James Wiseman, 30 minutes, because he doesn't ever get to play 30 minutes, but because Duren was in foul trouble and then he got ejected, so Wiseman got to play a lot of minutes. But he was at 8 for 10. That's awesome. And 1 for 2 from the line, 11 rebounds, 4 assists. He made a great pass to a slicing FONTECCHIO to the basket, and only 1 turnover. And again, our bigs, even last game, our bigs, AUSAR and Stu and Duren had a whole bunch of turnovers between the 3 of them. But FONTECCHIO, I already talked. He had 27 points, 32 minutes, so 9 for 13, phenomenal. 4 for 5 on threes, including that 1 Hail Mary. 5 for 5 from the free throw line. So just a great game. It's really encouraging that we got him. We're going to sign him and we're going to keep him. We had 4 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal, 1 block. Fournier didn't get to play a lot. He struck 0 for 3 and from the field and 0 for 2 from the line. From the 3-point line. And he had 2 rebounds, 0 points, and -12. So he didn't get to play a lot, but he was in there during that stretch where we got beat 18-2. So, and the hard thing about being a bench guy is when you're in with the other bench guys and none of them are doing good, and they tried to play them with Ivy. The problem is Ivy was having a bad game, so we put Ivy with our bench unit, which all of them were struggling, and then you get an 18-2 run. So anyway, yeah, I think if you played with all the guys play better if they play with better players, and that's why I think it's good if FONTECCHIO, if he plays with the starters more, because he's such a great knockdown 3-point shooter, he can just catch and shoot and get rid of him even if they are fairly close. But Stanley Umude, I thought it was a good thing that he got to play, when things weren't going right, but he played in that third quarter when everything went wrong. He played 13 minutes, but he shoots it. He's never shy. The ball touches his hands and he gets up a 3. It gets out of his hand fast. But he was 1 for 5 from the floor and 1 for 3 on threes. He had 2 rebounds, and with those only 3 points, but he was -20. So he had the worst -20 in his 13 minutes, but he looked like a G leaguer. He didn't look, we've seen him play better, and he hasn't played, in a long time. So I think that, he's trying to put a little pressure on himself. But yeah, our team shot 46%. The Dallas has terrible defense. Dallas's defense is pathetic, and we scored 124, but our defense was worse partway. But partway they have this one of the best players in NBA history, and Luka Doncic, and Kyrie had a good game, but you don't hardly notice him. Kyrie is one of the best players I've ever seen play, and I don't like Kyrie. I don't like all the things. He was with the Cavs with LeBron. They win a championship, but wasn't good enough for him. He wanted to be the man, so he goes to Boston. Boston went to the NBA Finals, and they had, Tatum and Brown that were just young, but they made it to the finals, and they added him, but he wasn't happy there. Then he goes to the Nets and gets Durant and Harden, and no, he's not happy there. And so he just it just bothers me. He wants to be. He's just weird. And he wouldn't play during the COVID and stuff. So I am not a fan of his, but I am a fan of his game. And he doesn't get to show it as much because Luka is such a dominant player and has the ball all the time. So yeah, we shot 46%. They shot 55% on threes. We were 35%. They were 37. Free throws, we were 21 for 25 and they were 26 for 32. Fouls, there was a big discrepancy. They got called for 18 fouls. We got called for 26 fouls. And it just makes me mad how many times there's at least 6 times where they barely got hit and they just lay down on the floor in the fetal position. And it just, you know, and some of you could see the replay that they hardly got hit and they just, and it wasn't just Luka. Luka did it, but it was several of their guys. You know, it's like you watch those world soccer games and these guys just, they don't even get hit and they jerk their head back and they fall back, and NBA players do it too, and they try to get the, you know, the other player kicked out or a yellow card. I don't even know what a yellow card is, but yeah. So anyway, it was a tough game for our Pistons, and now we got to turn around and come back, and we got to get to play the Hornets Monday. So the Hornets won tonight, and they've been on a little bit of a roll, and they have some good players and some young players. So we're playing at home, so that's a game though that we need to try to really win. And then, you know, then we got the Raptors on Wednesday, and that's a winnable game. And we got the Heat. I mean, I think we can still beat the Heat. We got the Heat Friday and Sunday at home, and then on Monday we got to come turn right back around and play the Celtics on a back-to-back. It stinks when you got to play them on the second day of a back-to-back. But anyway, thank you so much for listening. And again, please subscribe. Please be the reason that someone feels that you're listening to them and that they're important. And go Pistons.